All right, people, it's official. And this has significant implications for the Seahawks, so we got to talk about it. Jimmy Garoppolo is done for the season. In yesterday's win over the Dolphins, he broke his foot, and with only 5 games plus playoffs left, there's no opportunity for him to get back this year. So that is the end of Jimmy Garoppolo's season, and the 49ers year has it's changed dramatically. The paths on which they can go from here, it's significantly altered now, right? You guys know I am not a Jimmy Garoppolo fan. In fact, I think he's kind of bad, but I'm not going to act like he's worse than a Mr. Irrelevant rookie with a noodle arm. Well, okay, they both have noodle arms, but I'm not going to act like Jimmy Garoppolo's NFL experience and experience running this offense is worthless. So I do acknowledge there is going to be a change in the way the Niners season is going to go now. And I can also acknowledge that Jimmy Garoppolo was actually having a good year. And coming from me, that means something because I'm a guy who believes that Jimmy Garoppolo is a bad quarterback and is being propped up by Shanahan. And I still think that's the case. I still do. I truly do think that Jimmy Garoppolo is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in NFL history. But he was playing better than he did in previous years, probably better than he did even back in 2019 when the team made the Super Bowl. His turnovers were down. He only had 4 interceptions so far this year, which is, for him, really good. He's always been a turnover-prone guy, but so far this year, he's actually kept a lid on it. 16 touchdowns, 4 interceptions is really good. His QB rating was higher than it's been since he was in New England that year in 2016, and he was getting it done. He was winning games for the most part. They lost a few games there. It wasn't perfect. He had that ridiculous game over in Denver where he found a way to blow a game where his defense gave up 9 points. So it certainly wasn't a masterpiece he was painting out there. But it feels like he was playing his best football. I know the Niners swapped out, I think it was their quarterback coach after 2021, and I think the new guy they brought in was helping. And he had that team humming in a way that made them look like a Super Bowl contender. I can admit that. I can acknowledge that. I still say that Shanahan props him up significantly. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo on other teams would be somebody who doesn't even deserve to start. But he was getting the job done, and now he's out for the year. So I have heard that Trey Lance might be able to play football again this year. If the Niners maybe make the playoffs, Trey Lance might be medically cleared. Of course, I don't know if the Niners want to throw Trey Lance into a playoff game after having so little NFL experience, knowing that he's still a young player. He's like, 21? So that's probably not going to happen. So for the moment, it's Brock Purdy season. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, Iowa State. I remember talking about this guy in 2019 with some of my viewers. So Brock Purdy was a guy who in 2019 looked like he was eventually going to be the next big prospect, or at least a next big prospect. He had a big year in 2019, 65% completion, 66 pretty much, almost 4,000 yards, 27 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. His junior year was getting hyped. It looked like he was going to be the next big quarterback prospect. Failure to launch. Next 2 years, he was okay. Across the next 2 years, his completion percentage was still really good, but his yards were way down, touchdowns were down, turnovers didn't get better, and at the end of the day, he just doesn't have much arm talent, and he wasn't able to overcome that with anything else. So he went from a guy who was at one point looked at it maybe a first-round pick one day to a guy who barely got drafted, and literally barely got drafted. Mr. Irrelevant. So that being said, he's the guy now. I don't think they're going to bring in any... Well, they brought in Josh Johnson, but I don't think they're going to bring in anybody to start over Purdy. Purdy has been in that offense for at least this season. He had the off season with them. He got to play a little bit in the preseason, I believe. So they're going to roll with that. He did play fairly well against the Dolphins. He got the job done in that game. But I think we all understand that when a backup quarterback enters the game unexpectedly, we often see them ball out because the other team was not preparing to play for that quarterback. They were preparing to play for the starter. So when you spend all week preparing to play Jimmy Garoppolo and suddenly you're dealing with Brock Purdy most of the game, you're not going to know the tendencies. You're not going to know his tells. You're not going to understand how he plays the game compared to Jimmy Garoppolo. That throws you off. We see this all the time. Backups come in, they play well for a little bit, but eventually things fall apart. So I don't know if things are going to fall apart because that Shanahan system is really good to protect quarterbacks. For the moment, the Niners have a rushing attack that should be able to carry them. It's kind of dangling by a thread right now because they lost Elijah Mitchell, and CMC apparently has a knee thing that for the moment is okay, but there's definitely some worried eyes in the Niners building about it. But at some point, he's probably going to have to do something. And you take a look at this Niners schedule, all right? Take a look at this schedule. It looked like they were going to cruise when they had Jimmy G. And as much as I don't think much of Jimmy G, he's certainly better than Purdy. And he's got more experience. He's more prepared. He's more capable of doing things than Brock Purdy. So now you're looking at it and you're going, okay, Tampa Bay, they're not a good team, but I don't think they're a bad team. They're a flawed team for sure. Maybe they're a little below average, but that's a team that can win games. In Seattle, I mean, look, I will say this. The way we're playing right now on defense with the run defense, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is. We got run all over by a team that was starting John Wolford at quarterback. So if we want to even have the opportunity to let Brock Purdy give us the game, we need to learn how to stop the run. But suddenly that game feels different. You've got Washington. Washington's playing well lately. You've got the Raiders. The Raiders are 3 in a row now, I think. Suddenly you're looking at it and you're going, there are some L's here probably, especially with Brock Purdy. So maybe there's some magic bullet free agent they can go pick up. I don't think Josh Johnson is going to be that guy, though. Some people were saying Cam Newton, but I think Cam Newton's about the worst quarterback imaginable to try to run that Shanahan offense. Maybe you could go try to lure Ryan Fitzpatrick out of retirement, but I think he's pretty happy over at Amazon. Go call up Drew Brees. That's how things look. But hey, with this injury, I think there are going to be some opportunities open to Seattle. But bottom line is this. If Seattle wants to make this matter, they need to get their stuff straight. They are not going to be able to beat the Niners or take the division if they can't figure out their run defense. Right now, I don't think having Brock Purdy in the game would matter that much. He would hand the ball off 80 times, and we wouldn't be able to stop him, and we would lose. Figure that out, though. Figure out how to stop the run, play at least NFL caliber defense, get it done against the Niners, get it done against the Rams when you play them again. You've got the Panthers, you've got the Jets at home. Watch the Niners maybe drop a couple of these games, and you could be there. It could be right there for you, man. Absolutely. Absolutely on the table now. So Jimmy G, that might be it for him in San Fran, by the way, because on top of everything else with him, struggles to stay healthy. Played that one full season in 2019, but gets hurt quite a bit. And I will keep an eye on the Trey Lance news because that would be a very interesting storyline. But for the moment, it's Brock Purdy season. All right, see you guys later. Go Hawks.